I'm Ben Ryman, and this is Behavior Speak. In this episode, Stefania Zampanka shares her journey in the field of applied behavior analysis and her experiences working with neurodivergent children in Greece. She discusses the challenges faced in the recognition and implementation of ABA in Greece, the importance of early diagnosis of autism, and the need for compassionate approaches in therapy. Stefania emphasizes the significance of mentorship and training for future behavior analysts, as well as integration of attachment parenting principles into her work. The conversation also touches on cultural considerations when working with Greek families and the future goals for ABA in Greece. All right, welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Hi Ben, nice to see you again. So I am Stefania Zampanka. I'm an IBA, BCBA, and a mother of two beautiful daughters. I have a bachelor in psychology and a minor in music and a master's in psychology of education. I am also an attachment parenting educator, trying to take a trauma-informed, compassionate caring approach in my work in general. So I started out about 16 years ago in Athens initially, in Greece, in the center with autistic children. I saw that it was lacking and generally it wasn't fulfilling, and the approach of ABA wasn't really accepted. So thereafter I moved to the UK, where I could actually identify the quality of work that was done, and was greatly inspired to continue with ABA, to continue trying to change children, change families' lives for the better in general. So I worked in mainstream schools, special schools, as well as home programs. And in the meantime, I began my BCBA coursework back then. And after about 7 years, fast forward, I came back to Athens, to Greece, and have been working here ever since as a therapist with neurodiverse children, and specifically autistic children, as a supervisor, as a lecturer, and I'm continuing my independent endeavors, supporting professionals and parents specifically with neurodiverse characteristics. Trying to, as I mentioned earlier, trying to put a more compassionate approach to whatever I'm doing into practice.
Tell me about, you said you have a degree in music. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I started with a minor in music back in the day because I was thinking of combining music therapy with children with special needs. But I was introduced to ABA and it was more fulfilling for me, finally. So that was a side chapter. Yeah.
And so just to give us a timeline, when was it that you were introduced to ABA?
It was back in 2010, approximately.
Okay. And this was when you were in Greece, right?
Yeah, in Greece.
Yeah. And so
okay.
what's sort of the history of ABA when it comes to Greece? And you said there's some negativity when you went to the UK and came back. So tell me a bit of that story.
So back then there was a handful of certified professionals generally. So we're slowly growing in number, mainly in the BCB board and very slowly in the IBAO. However, the title of certified professionals in the field is not really recognized yet in society. In the past, there used to be a coursework for BCBAs, BCABAs, and 140-hour coursework. And currently, to my knowledge, I think there are 3 40-hour trainings in the Greek language, one of which I'm part of. And these allow professionals to take the certification, to take the exam and receive certification. There's also one continuing education program, like a specialized training certificate program, which is offered through a university as well. And this is through the Hellenic community of behavior analysis, which has been created. Besides these, there are a lot of seminars and workshops which are offered by professionals in Greece about various topics on ABA, autism. But then again, they don't ensure certification.
And so how far back do you think it might have gone that ABA kind of came to Greece?
That's a good question. Well, from my mentors, I would say off the top of my head, maybe around 2005, So back in 2015, there were 5 certified BCBAs.
And so mostly working with autistic folks?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so what's kind of what sort of, so that's not a lot. So what are kind of the what's the sort of the typical sort of services and experience and diagnosis for, a family having a child with autism?
So general information on autism and diagnosis, yeah. So in Greece, and research on autism is not as extensive as in the US or other countries. Nevertheless, it seems that in our country, the number of children diagnosed with autism is increasing. There was a study back in 2020 that um, refers to a percentage about 1.15% of autism prevalence. However, I would guess that from 2020, this has increased, and probably this is due to the improvement of diagnostic methods and criteria. Now, with regards to the diagnoses, typically the family visits a child psychiatrist to get an assessment or a referral. And a common phenomenon which I've observed is that families receive a general diagnosis or no diagnosis whatsoever from at an early age. So at the age of 2, even if there are evident difficulties in the child, even 17 months old, the diagnosis will come many years after. And this means the family and the child has missed a lot of precious time if they were to have an early diagnosis and early intensive intervention. Another thing that is said is that a lot of doctors might try to skip this diagnosis at an early stage because of having their risk, having a risk of their own, of losing their own job if it's not true.
So like risk because they incorrectly diagnosed them?
Exactly. They don't want to take the risk of giving a diagnosis at such a young age.
Is that sort of due to a lack of training in diagnosing autism? Because it's, typically it's pretty
No, I
clear
don't
at
think
that age.
so. Yeah, I don't think so. Or they would say it's, I'm not sure if I translate it correctly, but atypical autism. So continuing this, after the first visit to the child psychiatrist, a diagnosis is given to the child, and the parents receive suggestions concerning what type of therapies can be followed. So, for example, OT, SLT, family consulting, etc. These are paid for by the public sector, and yet they're usually received with great delays and multiple bureaucratic problems. This is a common thing in Greece, unfortunately. On the other hand, parents can choose to do things privately, however. But again, it's very hard to do so these days due to the economic demands of the country. Another thing is that after the family's initiation or a recommendation by a teacher or school, the family can go for an assessment in a facility of the public sector with a psychologist or professional in the field. And a diagnosis is not officially confirmed there, but they give referrals to the family as to what is the best route for the child following within the school setting. So meaning attending a mainstream school with or without a TA, a teaching assistant, or attending a special school.
But how do families make contact with ABA? How do they get services, and how do they get to you? Do you have a credential with the International Behavior Analysis Organization, the Qualified Applied Behavior Analysis Credentialing Board, the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, or would like a certificate of attendance for another organization? You can earn continuing education units by going to www.behaviorspeak.com, clicking on CEUs, and entering the 3 secret words. The first secret word is mentor, mentor.
Well, through centers, they could actually have written information. So if it's for a family consulting, you could cover under this title that they have written down. So there are like small windows where you could actually put ABA services within. But the ABA services, clinically wise, won't be officially written in these papers.
So ABA is kind of there's like loopholes where you can sort of stick ABA in.
Yeah, but it's not acknowledged, unfortunately, at this time yet. Yeah.
And so why do you think that is?
I think that ABA has a negative reputation in Greece, and professionals from other fields seem to focus on how ABA used to be. So maybe using excessive time out or only punishments. And with these views, usually we're not open to new ideas and perspectives. I understand this, I hear this, and my response is that us professionals can stand by our work, our values, and try to become even better professionals more firmly. But unfortunately, again, this negative reputation is the result usually of uncertified individuals who put forward faulty non-scientific methods and techniques into practice without having actually educated themselves further first. And in turn, this may have problems with collaborations with other professionals, teachers, SLTs, OTs, etc., that may work with a common client and with the parents, obviously, with the families. There might be difficulty there with cooperation with the families thereafter. And with this in mind, some individuals have decreased the value and importance of the scientific work professionals put into the whole setting of constructing a clinical program. For example, not understanding how important it is that you're working with data in an environment with specifically set targets.
So with a negative reputation and no regulation and nobody recommending ABA to families, how do you stay afloat?
It's hard. It's hard. Well, I'm going to talk about certification a bit as well, but I see a handful of professionals seems to be fighting and striving for this and for the certification, disseminating the requirements and trying to move amazingly well, while at the same time there are other professionals who are not on board with ethical guidelines and techniques and principles. So you see, some professionals might be following a seminar or the 40-hour training, and then they go out providing these services, opening a center, opening an office without actually correctly putting things into practice and without having a valid certification or having a continuing supervision. And we all know that even after the certification, we need to continue our education. And even more so, it is understood that it requires our commitment to a continuing life experience in general, as well as a professional and a personal advancement. So it's basically us few professionals, certified professionals, trying to disseminate to the families, to other professionals who we're working with, other colleagues, to understand the importance of ABA techniques and certification per se.
And what does that dissemination work look like? How are you getting the word out?
Well, from what I see personally and from other professionals and through seminars, through actively trying to speak about ABA in a positive manner to other professionals who might have a false view about ABA, trying to not persuade them necessarily, but talking about the data and the facts about ABA and showing them in relation possibly to a client that look what ABA has done positively to our client. So stating the facts apart from seminars. Okay. I wish that for future references, I wish that there was more dissemination going on in Greece, but I think we're step by step slowly trying to do this. Because again, as I told you, we're a handful of certified professionals striving to do this.
And tell me about the association.
The association. So they're connected to a university, which does have a class on behavior analysis. The students who come out from there, from my knowledge, cannot continue with the certification in IBAO or another organization. It's just to their knowledge. And they organize every 2 years, if I'm not wrong, events, basically, that students, mainly from the university, might present articles or some research studies. So this is part of the dissemination as well that we were talking about earlier.
So tell me about some of the work you're doing in sort of building capacity and certification and that sort of.
So basically, I'm focusing mainly on supporting IBTs at the moment, and a couple of IBAs, and being a mentor for a couple of IBAs. From what I see, it's really nice to see young professionals trying to keep up to date and strive the best, and at the same time trying from their own part to change other people's view with regards to certification and requirements of ABA. So from my part, trying to model this behavior and they trying to imitate and follow this to other capacities to the core. So this is a main part with regards to supervising professionals, and I work with families at the same time with young children. It's mainly consulting the families within their home and providing ABA services at the same time. And that's why I'm trying to combine attachment parenting at the same time for the younger children, uh, families that I work with, and compassionate ABA together. And the third bit is basically that I per se work with children on neurodiverse children in a center or in homes.
And so do you have your own center, or?
I don't have a center, but I have my own business. I'm planning slowly, step by step, to create my own space. But due to the circumstances in Greece, generally it's hard to do so these days. But it's one of a goal for me personally.
And so for these IBTs and IBAs that you're mentoring, are you providing training coursework for them, or where are they getting educated?
There's a coursework currently in Greece, the one we are rescheduling at this time, and we'll start soon for IBTs, the 40-hour training for IBTs. And this chapter will be done online this time, not in vivo. So this is an exciting project. I mean, we're updating it with more information, more exam question, more interactive resources, etc., in comparison to our last course. So this is an exciting time and way again to disseminate and try and make young professionals understand the importance of having this knowledge, not just having a 1 hour seminar and that's it. Sometimes the 40-hour training, this is my view, the 40-hour training isn't enough to go out there. You do need to have this supervision. You do need to have a mentor. You do need to have all the experience to continue this work. I think in Greece, many professionals, young professionals as well, are not accustomed to having these high standards. They might have difficulty with understanding supervision at the same time. And I've seen in the past that once they see the requirements of the supervision, they might stop completely. So they might feel completely overwhelmed by all the requirements and may stop. We need to have a MO there to have more authentic professionals and as such to produce more quality work in our field, I think.
So how many folks have gone through your IBT training?
So they should be around 10 approximately, handful.
Yeah.
But then again, it's who decides to continue with the examination, the certification. So we might have a lot of individuals coming in, but then will continue. The same went with the RBT back in the day. I mean, there were a lot of individuals, there might have been 20, 30 individuals coming in, but then again, they wouldn't continue with the requirements for the certificate supervisions, and then for the examination to continue with the whole requirements. I believe generally it's a fad in Greece or a kind of like a way people in whatever sector there is, they might not strive for this specialization. A lot of people think that again, if I just follow a seminar or a workshop, that's it. I'm ready. I've got my tools.
Sure.
The same with, I mean, bachelor degrees. You might see someone completing their psychology degree and go out and open an office to support clients without continuing with whatever requirements they are or specializing specific area of expertise.
And so how is collaboration then? How is it to work with other professionals? Because you're probably working with a lot more SLTs and OTs because they're the ones who are getting recommended and probably leading the case in some ways because they're recognized.
Well, from my experience, on the one hand, I've met amazing professionals who've accepted my work, ABA, and might even ask to include whatever techniques there are into their own session under my supervision. So this is the ideal. There are occurrences where this is happening, obviously, and from colleagues, certified colleagues that they've told me as well. So this is like the ideal collaboration, especially where teachers openly ask for support and techniques that they could use with a client, a common client, and vice versa. I mean, this exchange of information is ideal because you have a whole perspective from different environments that the client is within. On the other hand, we have professionals who are denying ABA, who put a wall in front of whatever collaboration there is, whatever conversation we need to have, denying, even though there might be some change, positive change within the skill set of the client, trying with any possible way that there wasn't a change because of the ABA techniques that were used. And this has to do with what I said with the stance earlier, this attitude that a lot of people think ABA used to be. We used to use some specific techniques, or some techniques being used, but it's not ABA. Some professionals might have put the title of ABA, however, they were not certified. And just to add to that, a lot of professionals might add a title of behavior consultant in Greece, even though they're not certified. That is another thing with regards to the reputation. And another professional might hear, oh, behavior consultant, you're doing ABA, so if you do something wrongly, all ABA is like this. So overgeneralizing in a way.
And are there folks that sort of call themselves behavior consultants that are sort of doing completely different types of therapies that maybe aren't evidence-based as well?
Well, to my knowledge, is for some behavior consultants, quote unquote, they might not be collecting data. So that is my first evidence that you're not using,
Right.
you're not a certified behavior analyst.
Like something I see, because even in Canada, it's not regulated. Behavior analysis. We have 10 provinces and 2 territories, and one province is regulated and the rest of the country isn't. So where I live, behavior analysis isn't regulated. We have folks right now today that are working as behavior consultants that don't even pretend to do ABA. They're doing sort of, other things like RDI, familiar with that, relationship development intervention, floor time.
Floor time, yes, exactly.
PIR, those sorts of things, sunrise, and there's a bunch of sort of, the second secret word is collaboration, sort of these therapies or whatnot. Do you have any of that sort of thing kind of happening?
Well, with floor time, I've heard a lot. Yeah. It's really hard to control and set boundaries from what I mean, even if you see something that is falsely represented, even if there's a false title, someone may have followed the IBT and falsely represents themselves as an IBT. You can't really do anything about it. You will try and follow the ethical guidelines and inform the professional as a first step. But after that, there's no law, there's no protocol in Greece that set firm criteria for this qualification. Well, we do try and follow ethical guidelines as much as possible and inform professionals, as well as bringing this to their awareness. But then again, you will probably see it repeating this again and again and again, because there are no guidelines, as you mentioned.
Tell me a bit about your attachment parenting education. Why did you get that, and what is it? And then kind of how does it fit into your work?
So basically, my daughters inspired me to start with attachment parenting. Attachment parenting is a philosophy, basically, based on nurturing the parent and child relationship, while the parent slowly understands the child's needs and responds with compassion. So you're focusing mainly on the parent's point of view. And then in turn, the child may feel safe physically and emotionally, which in turn, it's easier to support the child to explore the environment, therefore increase socio-emotional development and other skill sets that are necessary. So combining this with ABA, I find it ideal, because then again, you have this compassionate part, focusing on the parent, nurturing the parent to try and see what is important from the child's perspective as well, trying to teach pairing at the same time, focusing on the emotional needs of the child, and trying to pinpoint, based on ABA and all these skill sets, what the child might lack and what needs to be improved based on their relationship. Then again, there are other chapters for the younger children that might have to do with breastfeeding, routines, setting the environment with love and care. Then again, all of this has to do with constructing a whole environment based on ABA principles. So it's just a part, it's a little seed for me in my
Cool.
work
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
combine it with ABA, which is the base. And I find that parents really respond positively to this.
You talked about kind of early in your career, you were in Greece and then you left and you went to the UK. Why did you go to the UK?
I went to the UK actually because I always wanted to go to the UK, first of
Hmm.
all. So there was a chance there. And it happened that I was sending some CVs out there, some bios for jobs in autistic schools and centers. And they accepted me in a school in Guildford back in the day. So I'm like, okay, let's do this. Let's go. And it was an excellent opportunity for me to explore not only ABA specifically, but coming into a closer look as to how professionals in other countries work in general, not only in ABA, but in general. So this was a great advancement for me personally and in a professional level to see how better we can become. This comes back to why I stayed in Greece afterwards. It was not only because my family was here and the sun is irresistible, but I felt that from a professional perspective, I could give more to the field in Greece. Things that I saw that were lacking, like communication with colleagues, communication with families, communication with other professionals. Back in the day, again, we were really far behind in relation to what I'd seen in the UK.
Sure.
And practices, ABA practices. I mean, some of them might have not been applied in Greece. Again, might have not been applied that systematically, that consistently, correctly as well. Data collection methods. I mean, I saw the perspective in the UK in whatever setting I was back then. There was a great difference between the two countries. So that's why I stayed and I'm still here. I felt that from a professional perspective, I could make this change. And I believe I am giving my best to my knowledge from the feedback that I receive from my families and from my colleagues at the same time. And the best feedback is from our clients, from our kiddos, obviously. Yeah.
So you really, when you were in the UK, you saw how it could be and you wanted to come back to Greece and kind of fill
Felt
that gap.
Yeah, exactly. Ben, to be honest, I felt that my eyes opened because it was a completely different point of view professionally speaking, not only personally.
Kind of shifting a bit, tell me a little bit about kind of Greece and Greek culture. What was it like growing up in Greece? And tell me a bit of that.
So, well, Greece is part of the European Union. It's the birthplace of democracy. And as a country, Greece has endured a lot of wars, revolutions, and dictatorships ships in general. From when I grew up in Greece, we always valued close-knit families, loyalty to family, eating together. So having a lot of traditions valued very highly. Now, although Greece is a beautiful country, I don't know, Ben, have you ever come to Greece?
I haven't.
I hope you do sometime. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful country. Nevertheless, it's faced a lot of difficulties. I mean, in the past decades, and we're still facing a lot of difficulties in the economic sector, as I mentioned earlier, due to the political situations that have prevailed. People are struggling to keep their jobs. They pay very high rents, exuberant taxes, and we're having difficulties paying for everyday necessities, which is crazy, while the salaries are remaining extremely low. You can imagine, and me growing up in the situation as all of the people in Greece, how many struggles they have on a daily basis. Now imagine this for families that have even more problems and need more economic support for their children and their families in general. No, it's been tough. It's been tough, and it's sad to see that nothing is changing at this point. I wanted to add that Greeks have the reputation to have an altruistic generosity, being outgoing and friendly. But due to all these circumstances, this has changed quite a lot. And I observe that people are more isolated. They're not as friendly as they used to be, especially in the cities. And probably, I'm not sure if this is the same in other countries, but because of technology and because of maybe having this influence by other European countries, we're kind of losing our identity as a country. Even our language. I mean, you can hear people speaking Gringlish, half English. So yeah, as a result, you see this influence of Greek habits and traditions being altered and have acquired a foreign hue in a way. Now, as families, you try and support personally with my family, and from what I see with the families I work with, everyone is trying to have one string attached with some traditions as much as possible. It's really hard to do so.
There's Greeks obviously all over the world, and so there's probably a lot of behavior analysts that are working with Greek families. What are kind of some considerations in terms of culturally responsive care that behavior analysts should be thinking about? You mentioned some a little bit already in terms of tradition.
But I'm not sure I understood your question, Ben. Sorry.
Just sort of what are sort of some considerations behavior analysts sort of outside of Greece should have when they're working with Greek families, in order to sort of maybe, make a connection. Every family will be different.
So I think it's necessary to, on the one hand, have a professional stance, but at the same time, be on a friendly mode. Uh, because from my experience and from my supervisees, I see that when they're too professional, if you put that in a measurement
Yes.
from 1 to 10, for example, you would appear too strict, most probably. And many times I find that families don't want to continue cooperating with my supervisors if they're too professional. The same goes with other professionals that I've spoken to.
Sure.
So that friendly mode needs to be on because, as I mentioned, we do have this generosity. We are outgoing, we are friendly, even though at points we do seem isolated and unfriendly. When families need this support for their children or some other a member of their family, they do need someone who comes to their level, who shows this understanding, shows this empathy, and will show an attitude that they're kind of part of the family. So, for example, even going in the house and taking your shoes off is a sign of respect for them. Like, you're entering our home, you're part of our family. Yes, we'll discuss business, quote unquote, but put on your friendly cap on. The other thing is like offering snacks or beverages, which I've heard other professionals might find it really hard to try not to accept this.
Yes.
But it wouldn't ruin the relationship. It would ruin it most probably if you didn't accept it.
Yes. Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
that's
I
good
think
advice.
these points are quite important from what I see. But then again, it's a fine line because I've seen families from my supervisees that have given me some information is not knowingly, sometimes family might take advantage of this and altering the nature of this relationship. So you might be going in their home, entering their home, this sacred place, providing ABA services based on a specific protocol, etc. On the other hand, this is a true story, they might ask you to take the dog for a walk. So this is a fine line. Okay, we are professional. I am part of the family, quote unquote, but I draw the line here. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Being that there's so few behavior analysts in Greece and maybe not a lot of opportunities to interact, how do you sort of stay in touch with the field and kind of connect with others? Are there opportunities for other sort of conferences and whatnot nearby outside of Greece? How do you sort of stay in touch with what's going on in the field?
Well, because we're so few, sometimes it's like between us, of certified, individuals. But on the other hand, as I mentioned, approximately every 2 years, there's this conference I mentioned based on from the Hellenic community of behavior analysis. So a lot of certified professionals, young professionals or students come along. So there is an exchange of ideas and coming into contact with new information and data on our field. Other than that, there's nothing much, unfortunately. That's why I'm pinpointing the importance of dissemination in general, even if that's a small seed from our part. But I find that it's a major goal. And you're pinpointing it, Ben, very nicely. It's a major goal to disseminate ABA in Greece in a positive and encouraging way, because I've, especially these past few months, I've heard a lot of negative comments about ABA. Because we're experiencing this during these times, it's really important to support each other as professionals as a whole and to try and disseminate and like to create like a clearer direction for our field for the future. Like, what do we need to do? What do we want for our field? And maybe one way of achieving this is just trying to inspire professionals, more outstanding and ethical professionals who are more informed, who are open to supporting again each other. And trying to strive quality services again through a compassionate lens. I think that this is ideal. Again, step by step, we're trying, but it's a major goal. And the result would be that we would have communities where all the professionals or parents would increasingly trust ABA. That's really important. And with this attitude would be further reinforced by developing more educational resources, possibly in the Greek language, because we're lacking this. Resources for parents and professionals at the same time, maybe like articles, blogs, and data sheets for use.
Things like the IBT and IBA exam, have they been translated to Greek? The third secret word is building.
So the 40-hour training is in Greek at this point. However, at the same time, the English language, the English definitions are presented because the final exam is in English. So that's really a tough one for individuals who are struggling with the English language. Again, there have been a couple who've struggled with this, but it's tough. I mean, that's another goal, to hopefully have the examination in the Greek language. Yes.
So what are you've already kind of alluded to some of them already. So what are your kind of goals for the next 5 years?
Well, disseminating, as we said.
Yeah.
Disseminating and trying to put a positive light to ABA through my clients, through the families I work with, through the professionals I'm training at the time being, and attempting basically to bring families together. I find that families in Greece don't have a support system. So this would be another thing I would try and create, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Really cool. Really cool talking to you and learning about Greece and learning about your work.
No,
Thanks
thank
for
you. Thank you,
thanks for
Ben.
coming on the podcast. Yeah.
Now keep up the amazing work you're doing. Thank you for inviting me. It's been great. Thank you.
Nice. Oh, you bet. Thanks a lot.
We have been connecting with advocates and practitioners across the globe like Stefania. To hear more of these conversations, go to www.behaviorspeak.com, click on Episode Categories, and then click on Global Perspectives to hear some great conversations.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please follow us on Instagram @BehaviorSpeak.